What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I did not even realize I actually even had this much time played in Motorfest. Now, a lot of players might look at this and go 750 hours, like, bro, what are you doing? And to be honest, I don't really know what I'm doing on the game at the moment, like, not gonna lie there. I do actually like jump into summits here on Wednesdays and I do events and stuff like that, but to be honest, guys, after playing the game for 750 plus hours, I have a few things I definitely want to go over. I'm probably going to do other videos on like different things that can improve the game and stuff like that, but being honest here and at least giving, I guess you could say, my honest thoughts on Motorfest, the biggest thing here and the first thing I do want to mention is I do like the game. I mean, obviously I have 700 hours in it. This game does have flaws, but honestly, every game has flaws nowadays, so you pretty much have to enjoy it for what it actually is. And at that point, I would say a lot of players might actually look for some of the flaws and then go, oh, okay, so I don't like this, I don't like that, and then most likely not play the game. But for some odd reason, I'm always aiming at looking at the positivities, even in Motorfest here. And I do think this game has a ton of potential, guys. They can legit do so much with it. But on top of that, though, playing the game for as much as I have, now I'm not going to lie here, though. Recently, I haven't really been playing Motorfest as much as I was before. I'm still playing it, but I'm also playing like Need for Speed, SnowRunner, and just other racing games to make other content and stuff like that, while also playing Motorfest and still making content and enjoying this game on top of it. I just really hope we actually see some things being improved in the future, at least more things being added to it. That would actually give you a big reason to truly jump into the game every single day, or at least even weekly, even more than just doing these summits at the moment. Like, don't get me wrong, the summits are fun, but can we all agree, though, that the summits really do need some type of change to them, or at least a bigger variety to mix up the overall gameplay in these said summits? Don't get me wrong, guys, I do know a lot of players are like, bro, you have 700 hours, of course the summits are going to be boring. Well, yes, but that's also going to be a lot of grinding, getting different part sets and getting different things unlocked, going after like a lot of money and stuff like that, and grinding out spare parts and going after like the right to fix the stats and all that. So there was a lot of gameplay there. Do you actually need 700 hours to do all that? Well, probably not, because you know you're going to play a lot and stuff like that to make content, or you're going to be on the game a lot to get specific builds. But I don't think you obviously have to play that long to get part sets, unless you're probably having terrible RNG, which I wouldn't doubt it. But the one thing I have to admit with the summits, though, and that can also tie into the like part sets and stuff like that, is, you know, maybe they should mix around the summits a bit more and actually make them a bit more variety based, similar to like the Crew 2, which I would say at this point a lot of players are most likely 5+ years into the summits, or I guess you could say it's going to be around 4 years with the other update in the Crew 2 bringing the summits in. So then you're probably going to be doing the summits for years on end. You jump into Motorfest and you're like, oh look, more summits, like they're fun. But playing the game, I think we can all agree right now, guys, it really does need a mild change. I do think the overall design of a summit is legit genius. If they do it correctly, they could have a lot of variety to it. Similar to the Crew 2, maybe add something like a special event in there somewhere would be kind of dope. And playing the game as much as I actually do, because I am on here pretty often to make content and stuff, I would say a lot of players are like, wait, Block, so what are you doing if you're not doing the summits? And to be honest, guys, I'm not even going to lie here. I don't play Demolition Royale or the Grand Races that often. I'm basically doing random events and just pretty much cruising around the island, which I have to admit is great. It is really fun to do. I pretty much have been riding around the dirt bikes a bit. I've been also using some of the motorcycles because I'm a bike guy, so, you know, jumping on here and cruising around and stuff like that is an absolute blast. I also really love off-roading like a rally car, like even a rally raid vehicle. So I would say there's going to be a lot of positives where you can put a lot of time into the game, where it is a lot of fun factor to it. I just really would like to see a different variety of different stuff in the summits, but on top of that, I would also really like to see more things added similar to like the Crew 2, where it's going to be like that taxi update, or just more things that really get you into the game. And that's probably going to come down to the fact of a lot of players jumping into Motorfest going, okay, the summits are done, bro, now what do? I could do the grand races, but I'm kind of bored of those. Ooh, Demolition Royale, can't really find a lobby in there. Let's go do some of the playlist events, which is fun, don't get me wrong, especially if you're missing like part sets. But the big thing here I have to say right now, let's say somebody was to walk up to me, or they were asking me like, yo, Block, seriously, you have 700 hours in Motorfest, what do you think is the biggest issue with the game right now? Or what do you think is the biggest thing you have noticed playing the game for 700 hours? You guys want to know what my answer to that would be? more events or a lack of events in the game to specific classes. Now, I do know they did end up taking a different approach to Motorfest. That way you actually can run basically any car in any of the events to really mix up like the overall gameplay in a way that, like, you know what? You don't have to be locked into a hypercar in this event. You could run a tier 1, a tier 2, a rallycross vehicle in it. Of course, if you actually want to mix up a bunch of events and go after parts lists, you don't have to do that specific one. Here's the thing about that though, guys. I do know a lot of players might have some mixed opinions on this in the comments, but looking at the Crew 2, I like the way they actually did the events in that game. There was a lot of different ones for each category, to where you can actually jump into like a hypercar event. You're like, oh, okay, this one's going to be based on hypercars. Ooh, look, a rallycross event. Which, by the way, that's another big gripe of mine I'm going to get into in a second. But if you actually want to use a specific class like a rallycross vehicle or even something like a motocross bike, they probably should have more events that can be used on these said classes in the game because, well, currently in Motorfest, most of the events, or even 95% of them, are going to be primarily based on the street where you have multiple off-road classes. You also have different classes to where you're like, wait a second, where are the events for them? Which is going to bring me into one of my bigger gripes, guys, on top of the events here, which is kind of the same thing, because lack of the events to that question. Before this, though, you obviously don't have any events for Demolition Derby and Monster Trucks in the game at all whatsoever, like the Crew 2, to where you can actually do, like, one of those weird, like, arena events, or even take that Monster Truck into a race. Now, I do understand a lot of players are like, well, Block, you know what, man, I could jump into a race with a Monster Truck. That's going to be enough for me because racing them is a bit more fun than doing those weird, like, stunt events. But here's my question, why not have both of them? Why not have the stunt events and being able to do races? At least it gives you something else to do in that Monster Truck, because at the moment, once you actually max it out, let me know in the comments below how many times you've driven one. I would probably say for me, it's probably none because I haven't really used it after I maxed it out after the 5 hours that I had to use it to do so. On top of that, guys, there is no Demolition Derby event, so if you want to max one of those out, you either have to go after the crates or you have to do some of the navigation races. Sure, you can do like the regular events, but I found the navigation races a tad easier to do them. And then that weird like circular track with the Demolition Derby car was incredibly easy in the dirt. But I just feel like a lot of players are like, you know what, man, the biggest thing is the lack of events. To be honest, guys, I even made a video about this with the map being smaller. I like the map. I mean, most of my hours on the game is me driving around enjoying the map. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it. Could it be bigger? Of course. But the biggest thing for me, though, is most likely having a bigger variety of events for each category. That way you can jump into them. For example, I would love to see more rally raid events and also rallycross events. For some odd reason, guys, back in the Crew 2, I love the rallycross events on the tracks where, like, the jumps, drifting around the corners with other rallycross cars was so dang fun. And on top of that, though, not only did I really enjoy doing the rallycross events, the other events I also really like, which I would say a lot of players might not be the biggest fan of, was going to be the motocross track events. Those were also really fun, man. Imagine having more of those in the game. Now, don't get me wrong, I do know there's technically one of them in the game, which is kind of like a monster truck track or a big track with huge jumps in it. I would rather see something like the motocross track mixed with something like the rallycross ones. That would be so dang cool, man. Like, I would love those type of events in the game. And I do know a lot of players, even to this day, are still like, can we get more off-road events? That would be dope. I know there's like one off-road playlist. There's a few other events in there, but let's be honest, guys, I love having more of a mix of events. That's the biggest thing for me, to be honest. I do know this game has flaws. As I said before, most games probably do. And the funny part about this, though, is every time I get onto Motorfest, guys, the same thing pops into my head, not even kidding. This game has so much potential, man. Like, I can't wait for them to actually do it. If they add some of the things players are looking for, it would be so much better, legit. And I really hope they do it, like more PvP events, a mixed variety of events. Also, guys, serious question, let me know in the comments below. Do you like the playlist design? Now, the reason why I did want to ask this question, though, is I do feel like a lot of players have been a bit mixed on the playlist, guys. Don't get me wrong, I do think they are really fun, but I also do feel like we probably need more of them in the game, having a bigger mix of events, as I did mention before. Bring us, like, motocross track events or, you know, rallycross events, having more off-road events would be awesome. Instead of having most of the events basically based on the road, that way every single class can do them, I actually think they probably should have class-specific events in the game, which I actually think would work pretty dang well. For the most part, though, I would almost guarantee a lot of players would most likely agree that having more class-specific events would also open up a big variety around the entire map of doing different events or going to different locations going, okay, I have to use this class, I have to use this car, instead of always going, okay, let's do another road event, let me go pick the Demolition Derby car, let me jump into a rally car and drive it on the road. I just feel like having a different mix would be so dang fun. That's probably one of my biggest complaints. But even then, that can easily be fixed in the future with like a map expansion. Also, having different playlists with a different structuring on them could actually fix it. And the other thing I did want to mention though is yes, I do have over 750 hours in Motorfest. Could I get to 1,000? Easily, guys. I can have well over 2,000 hours in this game if they did add a few proper things to it. Like, one of the ways they could do this though is to add a bigger variety to the PvP side of Motorfest, which I would almost guarantee everybody probably wants at this point. On top of that though, add a bigger variety to the events to where you can use different classes in them, or they're going to be more unique to those specific classes. On top of that, guys, I really do think the overall summit probably needs an overhaul of some sort. And don't get me wrong here, I do understand the summits are going to be like tied to the playlist of like the theme of them, which would probably make sense going along with like the Forsberg theme or like having like the Shmee theme that's coming up. So I do understand how the summits are going to be tied to that stuff, but can we all agree though, having lock skills and like all kinds of different variety of events would probably be so dang fun actually having that. And I would say at this point, though, I'm probably not the only person that would like to see a mild change in the playlist. Like, not saying they have to completely redesign the entire thing, but maybe they could do something small, like reset all the challenges in it. That way players can go back in and maybe get more money and XP and stuff from them. Also get a few more unlocks and stuff. Who knows, like all the main rewards on the timeline, maybe make it so it's going to be money or something like that. Wouldn't that be kind of dope? And then for the other side of this, though, make it so you can actually reset the entire playlist at like 20 challenges. That way you don't have to be in a crew to actually reset it. Then you can go back in and do all the challenges again for money and XP. That would probably make a lot of players go, oh, I'm going to play through all the challenges on this playlist again because it was fun. Like, honestly, guys, it's the little things like this that truly bring you back into the game, and it really isn't going to be too insanely difficult. At least I hope it isn't. Overall, though, I would like to know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Do let me know, by the way, how much hours do you have in the game, and are you bored of it? If you have a lot of hours, what are some things you would like to see changed in Motorfest? And what is the #1 thing that's on your list?